Can I just say how absolutely bonkers this latest Tsukimichi episode was? So season 2 episode 2, do you want to know what it decided to do? Just casually speed run through two different isekai scenarios. One, your more traditional hero fantasy with this girl coming from the same world as our boy Makoto, who basically gets a pretty typical, she feels insecure, but of course is powering through and is going to be a great hero. And then another boy who basically gets Code Geass into an isekai where I feel like he's about to get shield heroed, where he's going to, bang his way through this entire world, but eventually he's gonna get screwed over. But either way, he pretty much gets the most overpowered layout ever. He can just look at someone and they're charmed by him. That alone was enough to make an isekai life pretty decent. But the fact that he's immortal at night under moonlight, and I'm like, they just kept throwing more and more, and I leave episode 2 just reflecting. I almost feel as dumbfounded as Makoto does, because he pops up a couple of times in this episode, and he's like, hey, as that was happening to them, I was basically in the middle of bum hell nowhere. And I'm like, how does someone get this screwed by a goddess to the point that they're literally looked at as a monster because of their appearance, and these other two basically get the life of a lifetime? I mean, like I said, I still feel like this dude gonna end up getting shield heroed at some point. But either way, the night and day difference between how it started is never going to get boring to me in these isekai. I love it when one character gets absolutely screwed around and multiple other characters are kind of like having a pretty okay time, all things considered. Full live reaction to this latest Tsukimichi episode over on my Patreon if you would like to see my full uncut thoughts there over there if you're interested. Now, this was an episode I wasn't ready for, to be honest. I mean, I very much loved the return last week, but I'm thinking we're going to focus on our boy, right? Like, that's what we're jumping into. And then they just know. Instead, they said, hey, we're going to start the isekai now. And I'm like, wait, we're at episode 14. We're doing more of the, okay, sure, why not? And I thought it would just be the one, right? Like, just be like, okay, we're chilling, we're doing okay. And just the fact that by the end of it, I'm just like, you just speed ran two different isekai scenarios, and yet you don't feel convoluted. You don't feel rushed or out of place. You just make me say, just let the pieces fall. Let everything fall into place, and let's have them all in one location at some point. Because whether it's the difference in how, of course, our boy met up with someone like a giant spider lady, it's a very different scenario for the female hero who pops up and pretty much almost gets obliterated by everyone. I mean, honestly, I thought her pooch was dead. I thought that one dude lost his arm based on how they kind of froze the frame there, but she wakes up and everything's pretty okay for her. And honestly, you can make the argument everything's kind of okay for Makoto as well. At the end of the day, I mean, he is kind of chilling right now. He does have his little monster village. He pretty much has his own harem, but I mean, I don't know, man. Like, the difference between cooking that might kill you if you eat it and, sexy fun times with a evil-looking queen. I don't know, man. I think I'm gonna take the evil queen route myself. Yeah, it might end up killing you, but at least it'll be probably a pretty quick death. I feel like that poison through bad cooking or death by snoo stew from monsters is gonna be a lot more painful of an experience, but hey, that's just me. Don't hate me. I'm just saying my feelings here. But this was interesting because this is the type of you would assume in a lot of ways you would have episode 1 of season 1 and then you'd have this episode, right? Just like something like that, or maybe after like the first few episodes of season 1, then you drop this episode in. Like, that's how I think a lot of authors would do it. So by just like having a full ass season of how we went about things and then getting us reacquainted in season 2 to then dropping it like this, it's such a whiplash that you don't expect. I really don't think many people expected this episode to go quite like this, or to have both plot lines feel very interesting. That's my biggest praise I can give about the Tsukimichi episode. You could literally focus on any of these three, whether it's our main boy or any of the two here, and I'm good with that. Episode 3 could come out next week and we could literally focus on not our MC, and I'd be okay because I'm interested in their plot lines. And I mean, I don't know if they will or not. It's very possible that we do the setup here, we're going to focus back on our MC, and then we'll move on until we meet up with them or anything like that, right? Like, that could be the way they want to go about things. But I love the idea that, you can just have goddesses summoned to save worlds, She could be the type of person, right? Like this goddess who's like, hey, I'm going to summon multiple heroes from multiple different worlds, and I'm just going to watch this on my TV. And then because she gets bored, she throws them all into the same world for a big-ass battle royale. That's the type of person we're dealing with. I really feel that way. Or it can just simply be, you get a hero in this kingdom, you get a hero in this kingdom. And just, it feels like it's like if you give a toddler a machine gun and said, go have fun. That's what this goddess reminds me of. I really firmly believe that. She seems like a psychopath, man. Far too much power. And honestly, I don't know if it actually has good intentions or not, and if she does, she is so shallow and superficial that one look for our MC being as hideous as he is to her basically screwed him over as much as she did. Absolutely bonkers. But what a fascinating episode, because the first half is kind of like your traditional isekai story, right? You know, the idea that we have a girl who pretty much in her life had more or less everything you would think you would want: popularity, the looks, the smarts, but never feeling challenged. And she even said something that you rarely hear an isekai character say: why would I want to go somewhere else? I literally have a family. I have this and that. Like, I have a normal situation to deal with. And while it's kind of like shitty because, you know, it's like, oh yeah, but does that world challenge you? You can be challenged here. At the end of the day, you still are abandoning people that are going to think you're dead, but hey, you do you, queen. So that was kind of fun to see that. And then to see kind of like the pushback of like, I'm not going to follow this weak looking frail girl, to then ultimately willing to die for her. Very typical hero fantasy. And I think definitely out of the three characters we have, she had the like weakest and most boring of intro hooks, but still I could see myself following a character like that for a decent amount of time, just given the world and the powers and everything like that. Our boy, completely different situation. He getting bullied. I mean, the whole kick against the wall, I'm never going to take that serious with Japanese bullies, man. Like, I'd just be laughing and probably getting stabbed because I just can't take it seriously when these thugs are like, you want me to intimidate you? Foot to the wall. It just looks so silly, but I digress. He gets summoned in, and honestly, like, can you say overpowered? Like, obviously on one hand, it kind of sucks because he doesn't know how to control basically his Gios. He can't turn that shit off. I mean, the queen seemingly is doing okay against it, but he feels like he's about to get shield hero. I don't know, like, what type of allegations or manipulation. I just feel like based on her saying, I'll do whatever, like basically saying, I'll sleep with this pig if it means getting the job done. But at some point, I just feel him getting screwed over, and if not, I'd be surprised. But either way, this is interesting. I mean, we have a studio change from season 1, right? So C2C did the first season, and the studio that is C2C is currently doing the anime Shangri-La Frontier, which is currently still airing. JC staff is now doing season 2, and I think that's actually for the best, because not only do we get that Shangri-La greatness, which is animated and beautifully produced, and such a good watch, JC staff has been on a roll with action anime. Like, the latest Don Machi stuff and everything, like, even, yes, different staff and everything, I just feel very comfortable with JC staff as a studio for a show like this, and I'm so happy that we can have two great shows. Like, even if C2C is no longer doing season 1, like, the fact that they're still here in spirit with that Shangri-La airing alongside it, it's just good to see, because so far, season 2 does feel a lot more consistent. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting, and we're getting 24 episodes of this back-to-back, so we need consistency. If there was already crack showing, we'd be in for a rude ride by the time we got to even episode 12. So overall, we are now 2 episodes into a show that I was not expecting to get a season 2, let alone get a season 2 that would be 24 episodes. The opening, the ending, the animation in general is pretty good. I mean, there's some brutality. Like, at one point, it's the very first fight, a thing gets stabbed through the mouth with a sword, and it is brutal. Like, traditional killing of these, like, dog goblin looking creatures. But there's some brutality here, and there has been. I mean, episode 1 last week of the season literally reminded us of, like, the stab that our boy did to that one character. This show can go gory and dark, and honestly, there was some teases in this episode that makes me feel like they're gonna do just that. But I was not ready for the speedrunning of 2 different isekai scenarios, and I really just leave saying, man, our boy got dealt a dirty hand, but maybe when all is said and done, he'll end up with the best situation, because their 2 happy-go-lucky normalized aren't gonna be so happy-go-lucky for too long. But either way, those are my feelings. Let me know what you thought of this latest Tsukimichi episode down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell, and like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, you also get a video shout out. Alright, so today we have Pixel Caliber, Janice Mary, Sign, and Ashlet, so I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.